I don't understand. I really don't. I tried to like have faith and hope, but constantly you disappoint, and it's been like this for the past I don't know how many years. I've given up. Like we're not winning any championship. I'm just hoping we get like a win.
What is up, Formula One fans? Welcome back to Around the Circuit, Apollo Media's Formula One podcast. As always, I'm Junior, joined by my boys Mark and Ivan. Boys, Miami happened. We had the sprint, we had the race, we had a Lego race. How are y'all feeling today?
Shit.
Been better. It was definitely a weekend.
It was a weekend. I want to start off by saying we did host a watch party at Kobo's. So anyone in Houston that came out and supported, and we really appreciate the support. Hopefully we could do it again, get more people out and watch F1 together because it was time was had, right, boys?
Yeah,
Time was had.
it was fun.
So let's jump into Miami. Let's start with the sprint race. Sprint happened. Lando won. Oscar was P2, and Lewis, the sprint king, came in, wrapped up the podium.
What a chaotic sprint.
It was eventful. We had 3 DNFs, the rain. One of those DNFs came before the sprint even started.
Yeah.
Thanks
it's
to
great.
Charles.
Yeah, Ferrari first. I'm just gonna say this first. I'll go on my Ferrari rant later. But firstly, they put them out on inters when it's literally a river. Like it's filled with water. What do we even have wet tires for if you're not gonna put them out on wets?
Must be the water.
Must be the water because they put them out on inters when it's flooded off the track. And of course, Charles can do nothing and he goes right into the wall and he's out for the sprint. Second of all, qualifying for sprint. Kimmy on pole. Youngest to do it in history.
Youngest pole sitter in F1 history now in any format.
Beats Vettel by
like 3 years.
3
almost.
years.
It was.
Yeah.
Ivan, your initial thoughts on the sprint before we get too into detail.
Everything with the sprint was pretty fun. It was definitely a race
Speak for
where
yourself.
Ferrari fans are going to want to not remember that race for one driver and then remember it for another reason. Charles, I will say this. Charles, that happens a little too often to you, buddy. Where you DNS, he's got to be the leader on the grid right now of current drivers that did not start a race whenever they're doing the grid. I remember Brazil, he had one a couple years ago too. It happens way too often to you, Charles. Like, just take it easy on that build-up lap and just make it to the grid so you can start the race. But yeah, it was a great race. Kimmy had a great qualifying lap.
Yeah,
Did not work out for him in the turn one, but we'll get to that, I'm assuming.
yeah,
With Oscar, yeah.
he ran into some bad luck. He had a really good qualifying for the sprint, and then ran into the bad luck where, I mean, Oscar did his thing. I think, and I'll talk a little more onto it. There's a precedence being set going into turn ones on the first lap, in racing. All drivers in general. But Kimmy got pushed off. He fell back a couple places. Then he had the bad luck with Red Bull's atrocious pit crew. Ever since we've mentioned it before, ever since Jonathan Wheatley left, Red Bull's pit crew has declined, and there was no better showing of that than in the sprint. Max came in; they were all switching to slicks because the track was dry. He comes in, has a decent pit stop, and then if you watch the clip there's an angle from above Mercedes's garage. There's an angle where the crew chief or the guy controlling the lights, whatever, I don't know the specific term for what his position is, but doesn't even look. He actually almost gets hit by Kimmy as Kimmy's coming in. Luckily, Kimmy and Max, their quick reflexes kicked in. They were both able to avoid any major contact. Max had to finish the sprint with a broken front wing. Kimmy had essentially a drive-through penalty, which screwed him over even more than the rest of the race. But it was eventful. I mean, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Red Bull's pit crew, they did better in the race, but they got to figure something out.
They're really showing you why it's good to have a good manager no matter what job you have. Because Jonathan Wheatley did a heck of a good job while he was managing that pit crew. And literally, we're not even 10 races into him being gone. the pit crew that broke the record for fastest pit stop and had a 1.9 second stop, no mistakes ever, has constantly been making 4-second stops, mistakes. It's been crazy. And shout out, like you said, to Kimi. If Kimi had kept on going and trying to get into his pit, like the Mercedes pit crew would have been taken out by his car.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been a lot worse than what it actually ended up being. So
Yeah.
that is something definitely they're going to need to clean up. They cost 2 drivers a race because of that with the Red Bull pit crew. So yeah, they're
because
going to
Max took that penalty and dropped him pretty much dead last because Carlos spun out, he didn't spin out, he hit the wall, had a puncture, had to finish, had a DNF, and then Alonso got essentially pit maneuvered.
Yeah. And then even in the sprint qualifying, didn't Yuki get held up because there was some miscommunication with Max and the team was not communicating very well, and then Max just went in and Yuki's like, I can't do my lap now.
I think because of the rain, something happened there because Max kind of got in the way of a couple drivers. Not that he was driving slow or intentionally in the way.
Yeah.
He was off the racing line, but there was I think it was just a weird spot in the track with the rain and everything. But yeah, I mean, Yuki still finished in points. I would have loved to see Kimi convert that pole into a sprint win. Unfortunately, I think his rookie status kind of showed a little bit this weekend.
Yeah, his inexperience
more than anything.
A lot, yeah.
He even said it, there was no penalty from Oscar on that. And he said, okay, good to know for the future. So Kimi could get a little feisty, coming up. Like I said, there's a precedence being set. Going into the race, though, before the race even started, we had probably the most entertaining event of the season so far. The drivers' parade was them driving the life-size Lego F1 cars. And it was hilarious. I've never seen some of them smile and laugh as much as I've seen them smile and laugh. I mean, usually season, they have their moments throughout the season, but every single driver from every camera angle that you've seen, those guys were having the time of their lives. And I know we all talked about it briefly, like we need that every week. Every week.
Yeah. Release something different, because the driver's parade before the race, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
But this past one was amazing. Like there was one video where it showed Fernando in sunglasses, and dude, he looked the happiest he's been the whole year. That man just, I give a lot of grief to that man, but he is driving a terrible car this year. And he looked like, I think that car is faster than the actual one he drove in the race. And he was like, man, this is amazing. Yeah. So yeah, that was hilarious to see before the race. They need to start doing things like that more often.
Yeah, just change it up, more variety. Most of the time, they just drive around the track and do a lap in classic cars. That's normally what the drivers do to open up the race weekend or the race day week, and then they just go on to the cars. This added so much more excitement.
Yeah.
These cars that they go 20 miles an hour max.
I think it was 20 kilos per hour. So I don't know what that converts to miles per hour. It's pretty quick for a Lego car.
Yeah.
But it was funny to see them just completely. Is it 45 miles an hour? 45 miles an hour. That's really quick for a Lego car. But to see them just completely have no care, just bump into each other, playing bumper cars. It was hilarious.
I forgot to mention this earlier when we talked about it, but I feel bad for the marshals who had to go.
Oh, had to go through and clean up all of the Legos. You had to make sure every piece of Lego was. Because could you imagine somebody getting a puncture on the first lap because of a Lego that was missed?
That would have been.
That would have been the end of that.
Hilarious.
For sure. I did also like that whenever they were doing that, the aftermath they showed of all the cars.
Oh yeah, they were just destroying,
the
bro.
The car.
Dude, I can't imagine being the guys that built those cars, and you just see how bad front wings and pieces are just missing, just Legos just everywhere.
And then Mercedes and Alpine got stuck on the wall, and they didn't even get to finish their lap. That was amazing.
Kimi and George got out of the car after they wrecked them, and they went, "Yeah!" And I was laughing my ass off when I saw that. I was laughing so hard.
It was an eventful parade. Getting to the race though, I think Max is still proving that he's probably the best driver on the track still right now. He's just in a terrible car because he managed another pole for the second week in a row. We knew he wasn't going to really convert it to a win as much as I would have liked. Those McLarens are in a different atmosphere right now to everyone else on the track. And I'll get into it in a little bit about what the team is putting out there with around that. But Oscar and Lando 1-2'd. I think we all predicted Lando to win.
No, I
Or
predicted Charles.
Did you predicted Charles to
Yeah.
win? I know me and Ivan had Lando winning with Oscar P2. They 1-2'd everyone with like 36, 37 seconds on the dome. Like there was nobody even close to both of those cars. And then George Russell,
P3.
Mr. Lucky,
Mr. Consistent.
Mr. Consistent inherited yet another podium. I don't even really know where to start with the race. I guess we could start with turn 1. Max did essentially what Oscar did to him in Jeddah and what Oscar did to Kimi in the sprint race. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a precedence being set going into these turns where these guys are just full sending it into the corner, braking as late as possible and saying, well, I was ahead, the corner's mine. And he pushed them off. I know there's been some angles of Max's maneuver where it looks a lot worse. But if you look, he actually had like a snap of oversteer, almost like lost the control of the car. Now, if he would have caused a wreck, it's still a penalty on him. It's still his job to control the car. But he did exactly what Oscar's done in the last 2 formats, race and sprint. And those are the rules now. They changed them going into this season. I feel like as the season goes on, we're only 6 races in. With this precedence being set early, not only by Max, who is usually seen as the track terrorist, but by Oscar now, who's the championship leader and looking like he's fixing to run away with it. There's a precedence being set going into these early turns on the first lap where if these guys have the apex and they feel they have the apex, they're doing everything they can to have the apex. And whatever happens to the other driver happens to the other driver. It's going to get tricky. And the stewards are about to have a lot of work, I think, to do for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because
I don't like this, man. I don't like this whole ahead of the apex stuff.
I don't like it at all.
Your boy started it.
I was just about to say
here's my
thing.
thing though. Here's my thing. The rules were set, and granted the rules changed in previous years because of how aggressive he was. But this year it's totally different.
Yeah.
This year, even compared to last year, because last year we saw Max do that exact thing in Mexico, and he got a 5-second. I think it was a 5-second penalty when he pushed Lando off. The move is essentially still the same.
Yeah.
And now it's allowed. So, I mean, we could say a lot of the rules have changed according to Max and his driving style because he's dominated for the last 4 years or whatever it is. There's a new precedence being set, and it's not just all on him.
I mean, yeah. Like, Max did start it, but it's becoming the new normal. It's becoming the new thing that every driver is going to do coming out of that first corner. I can only imagine when we get to Austin and that big first corner, it's already mayhem. And now with this whole ahead of the apex, Max is diving that thing right, that Daniel Ricciardo style. And like, I was ahead. It don't matter if he crashes. If he's ahead, he's going to say he's ahead.
Danny was known for his late braking, so it's...
Imola and Baku are 2 turn 1s also I'm looking forward to. I feel like I agree with you on they've changed the rules because of Verstappen, but Verstappen has also adapted to the rules too.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give him that. The thing where I think a lot of people aren't factoring it in is that the drivers who are doing these moves now, like before it was Max and Lewis, they grew up and had their own idols in this, whatever idol they had, Senna, Prost, whoever you want to say. Now you've got Oscar Pias-Three, Kimi Antonelli. Who were these drivers looking up to when they were coming up?
Max. Lewis.
So they are getting literally their moves from the guy who's been the best. So they're like, I got to do what the best has done. This is what he's done. Oscar is literally taking every playbook saying, kind of like what Kimi said, oh, we can do that? Yeah. Okay, I'll just do that. Except Oscar found that out like last year, pretty much. And I always think back to this one incident to where I feel like it's changed this year because it's a different penalty. Now it's a 10-second unless it's on the first lap. But Max and Charles, turn 1, Las Vegas in 2022, where Charles got on the mic and just said something has to be done about this. You can't just push me off on turn one and just drive off and keep the lead. Once they gave Max the penalty there, that's when they decided, all right, we're going to do things differently, because up until then they had never done a penalty for that kind of incident. Now that's kind of led on to this, where because they don't want to give a driver a penalty on lap one, they are really holding their breath and saying, all right, man, I guess that was okay, but that didn't look clean at all. So that's the thing where you got a lot of factors with these young drivers coming in. They're trying to make a name for themselves. Drivers like Lewis and them, they already had been in this game for so long, they're not going to change the way they drive. These young drivers are still developing their driving habits. So this is the way they're going to be brought up. And that's why the rules need to be changed, because you're going to have another generation after this that's coming up, like Isaac Hadjar and them, who are pretty clean racers, but once they get up near the front, are they going to start doing this too? Like, you got to clean it up before it gets bad.
I don't know. I don't think it gets cleaned up anytime soon. I think this is unless a rule change comes mid-season, it won't be until next year, and then we're looking at whole new regulations with the cars changing and everything else. So I don't know. It's going to be tricky. I think as the championship race gets tighter, if it gets tighter, I mean, there's going to be some late breaks. It's going to take one bad lockup, and we're going to see 3 or 4 cars go out at the front at the front of the grid.
I want to mention
at turn one.
That's one thing we haven't really seen, like a big crash between the top 3 contenders so far. So I mean, they've been keeping it clean so far, but I feel like it's bound to happen at some point. Like, things is gonna boil over.
Yeah, and I'll kind of use that to segue into my next thought. Not to cut you off, Ivan, but
you're good.
McLaren. You know that meme where they show Andy and it's from Toy Story. He's throwing Woody on the floor and he says, "I don't want to play with you anymore."
Yeah.
Zach Brown is doing that to Lando. The Lando Norris fans all over the internet, I've seen nothing but them talk about it and complain. And hey, I'm not one to judge. That's your guy. You want to defend him and get your thought pieces out, by all means, you do that. But it seems very apparent that Zach Martin has said, "Oh, Oscar's here. Here, Oscar's Buzz Lightyear, and Lando's Woody." And he says, "I don't want to play with you anymore." We said it at in one of our first 2 episodes. One of those 2 is going to have to come out and say, "I'm your number 1 driver," and they're going to have to show it. Oscar's won 3 in a row.
Passed Lando in career wins this weekend.
He passed Lando in career wins.
And from the way that both drivers hold themselves, you can definitely tell. The way Pias-Three defends, like, it's not the car.
Yeah.
It's me.
I think that's kind of what I mentioned earlier is we've seen Andrea Stella and Zach Brown all week leading up to Miami talk about the car's not that fast, where our car's not that much faster. Lando has come out and said, well, we just have 2 really good drivers. Zach Brown saying, well, we executed really well. Brother, you can gaslight somebody else.
Yeah.
That car is a rocket ship. And Oscar has said, no, we have the fastest car.
Yeah, that's what I misspoke.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I got you.
You know what I mean.
But, Oscar said it was a week or 2 ago. He's like, no, we have the fastest car. And there's little clips I've seen where after the race, like every interview, Lando was like, well, Max did this and Max drives like this. And Max fought. And I think Max is known for being a terrorist. He's going to, hey, we're going to make this turn together, or one of us is going off or something.
Yeah. Yep.
But I thought he defended pretty fucking cleanly yesterday.
Yeah, he defended
in the race.
Well,
he fought Oscar as long as possible. He fought Lando as long as possible. And Lando came out saying, oh, well, he ruined his own race. He only ruined his own race in hindsight because he defended and his tires were worn. He had to pit a little bit sooner than everyone else, and he was trying to beat the undercut. But if Ollie's engine doesn't explode and there's not a VSC, virtual safety car for those who don't know what a VSC is, Max is still on podium.
Yeah.
George isn't catching him. So, yeah, he did maybe ruin his race by fighting, but it's Max Verstappen. He's not going to let just anyone go by, no matter how fast that car is. So, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do y'all see things getting shifty at McLaren? And does it lead to more aggressive fighting? But before, because I know Lando was mad because he had a hard time getting past Max. Max knows how to defend Lando. I think he's got his number. And eventually Max was going to have to let him go by because he's just in a faster car. But they're best friends. They know each other. He spent last year fighting him. He's kind of in Lando's head a little bit. Oscar is his new fight, so he's still learning Oscar, and they're learning each other. They're both aggressive, but it seems like Lando has taken he was mad he couldn't get past Max and be able to actually fight with Oscar. He was never able to catch Oscar because Oscar bolted after he got past Max. So Lando's playing almost like the woe is me card. Like, oh, well, I couldn't get past Max because Max was ruining his race and not letting me by. But if there's not a race where, if they take 1-2 in qualifying, what happens in it? Things just feel like they're getting really shifty at McLaren. There was clips of his dad, Lando's dad, kind of looking at Zach, with some weird looks. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like overlooking the F1 Twitter and internet world, but y'all tell me y'all's thoughts.
It's like I said earlier, we still haven't gotten that big crash out of these main three, especially the two Papaya boys. Like I said, Papaya rolls out the window. It's going to happen eventually where these two guys, it's almost like what happened to Ferrari this past race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they get to that situation where one doesn't want to let the other one pass, there's going to be fighting going on and something will happen. And one of those guys, or potentially both of them, will get out of the race.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's tough, but it's definitely going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, for me, first off, you got a lot of politics going on right now.
Yeah.
So, from McLaren's standpoint, I can understand one thing. They are freaking tired of hearing Christian talk about their car. They are pretty much at the Toto state where he's like, worry about your car. You need to worry about your stuff too, brother. Like, worry about your on your end too. Because Christian has pretty much been talking nonstop about McLaren since the season started. For me, that kind of, from my point of view, I think Christian's trying to deflect and be like, well,
I think it's a mind game more than anything, which we've seen in so many seasons before.
Yeah. And it's also kind of, I think, to deflect to the Verstappen camp and tell them, well, we're trying, but like, look how fast this car ahead of us is.
Yeah.
Lando, at the same time, is because, there's no other way to put it, because he bottles it so damn much, he's trying to be like, well, this ain't even the fastest car anyway. And Oscar's like, I ain't having no problems. So what y'all talking about?
Yeah.
I got the fastest car. So like, everybody's got their own prerogative in the argument. I do think McLaren has the best car. I don't know how far ahead it is because I will say 2 years going on now, certain tracks fit better for certain cars.
Absolutely.
Miami, hands down, is a McLaren track now.
Yep.
Like, we've seen it now. That is a McLaren specialty track. You're going to see it later on in the year. Singapore is normally a track where anything can happen because nobody can make a car that's good at Singapore, apparently. Like, that's a dominant car everywhere else. If you're bad at Singapore, that means you're good everywhere else. It's a very weird thing in F1, but look at Red Bull's undefeated year. That's the only race they didn't win was the Singapore Grand Prix that year. Same thing with Mercedes, their dominant year. It's a very weird thing with Singapore, but different cars have different tracks that they're good at. I do think McLaren is good. I don't think they're 40 seconds ahead of the field good, but no. I do think they're like maybe 10 or 15 seconds up the field if they can be getting open, clean air. And that's what Max's job is right now is if I can keep them in dirty air for long enough and eat them tires, because apparently the McLaren doesn't eat tires at all on its own.
Some magic.
Somehow it doesn't eat tires at all.
There's water in the tires.
Yeah, water right? in the tires. Zach Brown with the bottle in his tire water.
So it's just been like, I do think there's a bunch of politics going on with that. Papaya rules, though, I do think they've got to start. Like, this is the exact thing that they told him before the season started. Whoever gets ahead, you're going to be the number one driver. Oscar clearly took that personally and was like, okay, then there's only one way for me to become the number one. And we've talked about it multiple times on the show, but when you have a guy in Mark Webber who is never even given the chance to be the number one because of who his teammate was in Sebastian Vettel, he's probably telling Oscar the whole offseason, I never had this chance. I always wish I could have had the chance at Red Bull to be the number one, but they never gave me the shot. Do not pass this up. So I think that's a bunch of the stuff that's going on right now, pretty much.
Yeah. It looks like tensions are starting to rise, and like you said, Mark, we haven't got that big crash in a 1-2. I think it's gonna take one race for them to qualify 1-2, and one of them's gonna try that turn one move.
Yeah, because
And
we haven't gotten a 1-2 from McLaren yet.
I don't. I think if we did, it was maybe Australia.
No,
Can't
Australia,
remember.
Oscar wrecked.
Oh, but I'm talking about like qualifying.
qualifying and beginning of the
Yeah,
race,
yeah.
they're 1-2. I don't think we've gotten it yet.
Yeah, it's coming. It's gonna happen at least once. I think. We talked about it a little bit earlier, Mark. One or two things are gonna happen. Either Oscar's getting ready to run away with this championship, and it's gonna be damn near close to 2023 Red Bull, where he's fixing to dominate and win every race or almost every race. Or these TDs come into effect and they play a bigger part than we think, and things get really crazy. I don't see that happening. It's kind of a stretch. I don't see that car getting that much slower. I think it would take some kind of bad upgrade or miracle for that car to get slow right
Yeah.
now. I think they're just fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think tensions are about to rise, and especially it seems like Andrea Stella doesn't want to favor either driver, and it's evident Zach is like, well, Oscar's proven himself. He's our number one driver right now. And between dealing with that and dealing with Max on a constant basis, I think Lando is like, I wouldn't say spiraling, but it's getting to him, and he's fixing to get really aggressive. Like,
Yeah.
he could use it as motivation and start winning some races, or he's going to get really aggressive and cause something bad.
Yeah.
One of the two.
He's getting close, and I'm not saying he's on the talent level anywhere near him, but he's getting close to Valtteri Bottas territory when he was at Mercedes, where you can't. You're a good driver. You can always finish second in the drivers' championship, but you cannot beat your teammate because your teammate's just a little bit better than you. I do think he's
in Lewis's situation, he's probably a lot of it better.
Yeah,
than him,
yeah,
but-
it was a lot better than Valtteri, but yeah, like that's the thing that's probably hurting Lando more, honestly, where he's like, Valtteri was like, all right, as Lewis Hamilton, like, there's only so much I can do. Lando's like, this dude has raced 82 less races than me and still has somehow more wins than me now in my career, like.
And that's
what
not to
more
take
can I
away.
do?
Yeah, not to cut you off. That's not to take away. Like, Lando has been there for a while now.
For a
and
while.
he's
Back-
been through the
yeah.
dirt. He was in the trenches with McLaren. So, I'll give him his props there. But now that they got the fastest car and they should be running away with it, I don't know. It just feels like there's some weird tension because Lando doesn't want to give it up. I think it's still too close is the problem. I think if Oscar runs away with it, it kills it. Lando is going to have to either settle for being number 2 or find another team because if Oscar does what I think he's fixing to do this season, Lando is not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's not to say it's his fault, but it's just kind of where it's going to fall, like Weber and like Bottas, like you just falling behind a teammate that's better than you, and y'all have a rocket ship, and is what it is,
Yeah.
Before we move on, the last thing I wanted to say, I forgot who said this, but one of my favorite quotes from a Formula One personality was that it's all about the team until someone takes the lead.
Yep.
Then everything's off
Yeah.
the table in this sport.
Yep.
You hear about it's team, team, team. Then when that race starts and one of them is in the lead, it's no longer about the team anymore.
I won't go into Red Bull because I already mentioned their pit crew was atrocious in the sprint. They did better in the race, but unfortunately, the virtual safety car came out like 2 or 3 laps later, and Max got screwed out of that podium. It happens in F1. It's racing. It's part of it. Is what it is. You shake it off. Like he said, he goes, whether I finish P3 or P4, that's not what I'm here for. He wants to win championships. He's not in a championship car right now. He's doing everything he can. He's getting poles. And Yuki even said it. He goes, I still have work to do, but he finished in points in the sprint and the race. It was an overall great weekend from Yuki. He's starting to get, I think, more hold of the car. And he finished in points, but he knows, he even said it, I think I read somewhere, where he's like, Max is probably getting everything he can out of the car. He's like, if I can get there, I'll be happy. But it's not a championship car right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. And he didn't have the upgrades this weekend, too.
Yeah,
Like Max
Max
did.
had the new floor, which he said he really couldn't tell how much it really affected. So he ran into some bad luck this weekend that is just part of F1.
Yeah.
But
Okay, yeah.
can we talk about it?
Yeah.
Ferrari.
I've been waiting.
The radio messages
From Lewis?
from Lewis were probably the second
Amazing.
funniest thing all weekend, next to the Lego race.
Yeah.
So, Mark, this is your team. Lewis is your guy. I'm gonna let you go off because, as a non-Ferrari fan, hey, you know it is what it is. They have more than just who's our better driver. They have a lot of work to do.
They have a
of things
lot
to-
of work to do.
a lot of
It's
things to figure out.
ridiculous. The
But
car.
to be fighting Williams for P6, P5,
You had a
P6?
Haas holding you up. Me and Ivan were talking about this while we
We
were
could-
watching. You had a Haas holding you up, which uses for.
The Ferrari engines in the Haas. We could not believe what we were watching.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this team should absolutely be doing better. You have you have a 7-time world champion and should be world champion in your lineup, and you're fucking it up. You're fucking it up. Like, ridiculous. Lewis, I think he got put on the mediums. His pace was amazing. We're towards the end of the race, and he was slowly but surely climbing, and he could have caught Kimi.
Yep.
And Ferrari just messes it up so bad. They don't let Lewis go past Charles. It takes for almost like 5 laps for Lewis to pass Charles. By that time, Lewis, when they finally made the swap, Lewis was gaining on Kimi, but not by a lot anymore. The tires were getting older. He was on medium tires. You had that little space where if you let Lewis pass, he could have potentially got close to Kimi and overtaken him. No, you completely messed it up. I think, what was it, afterwards, where they told Charles first that Lewis was going to give back the spot.
Before
Before
they
they
even
even-
asked.
Before they even
swap.
told Lewis, like, hey, we should probably give back Charles' spot. You
They were
fucking-
just slingshotting each other back and
Yes.
forth, and it made no sense.
And even afterwards, you know, Charles and Lewis said that it was nothing between them.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing between them. It was the engineers being absolutely just ridiculous. Like, the communication was so bad. The funniest one out of all of them was when towards the very end they told Lewis what, like,
Carlos is 1.4 behind.
He's like, "What? You want to let me hit past him? Like,
you want me to let him pass me
well,
too?
like, what are we like?" I don't understand. I really don't. I tried to like have faith and hope, but constantly you disappoint, and it's been like this for the past I don't know how many years. I've given up. Like, we're not winning any championship. I'm just hoping we get like a win, which is even a hard ask at this point because we only have like one podium. We have the sprint win, but it's just so bad. And I mean, Lewis after the race tried to justify it. He tried to say, "Oh no, everything's fine. Everything's not fine. Everything is not fine. It's okay, Lewis." If like Ferrari has made him more mad in 1 year than he has in like I don't know how many years he's been with Mercedes.
I like that Lewis after the race was like, I'm glad I still have that fire in my belly. He has not had to deal with stress like this since probably his second or third year in the sport. So it's hilarious for me to see him have to deal with this because I know everybody's making a meme out of it, but he should have never asked for the full Ferrari experience because he's been getting it within the first 6 races of the year, easily, hands down. Ferrari, for me, the question I have for them is like, so are you scared to ask Charles to let anybody by? Or are you just like that bad at communication that you can't tell him
I
to
think
let
the
somebody
answer
by?
is they're that bad at communicating.
They're
Like,
bad.
it has to be that because I think back to like, I'm not trying to bring up bad moments, but like when they asked Max to let Checo by in Brazil, and he was like, don't ask me that again. I have my reasons. I'm not going to let him by. It's either got to be something like that, or you just got to straight up ask Charles, let him by, especially if you're on different strategies. Like we saw in the first stint, Lewis was on the hard tires. He was slow at the beginning of his stint. Then when those hard tires had a chance to kick in, he was blazing up the track and was able to gain some positions. Now he's on the medium sets. You just had Charles on the mediums. You know exactly what they're going to do to your car. Let him in front of him, and let's just see what he can do, and he'll swap back. The biggest thing for me is, because Lewis said this on the team radio, I'm the one that asked for us to swap in China. I was the one ahead. I had no problem doing it. So why is Ferrari not asking Charles to do the same? And Mark and I even talked about this a little bit. The only part of blame I'll give Charles is this. Lewis shouldn't be the only one thinking about these swaps. Lewis was the one that came up with the swap in China. Charles is ahead. I know he wants to catch up to Antonelli, but he is on the hard tires at this point. Why don't you think, okay, my teammate behind me is on mediums. Why don't I just let him by? He'll let me back. It's not like he won't let me have my position back. It's Lewis. He'll do it. He's done it. He's given up a win before for Bottas, so he'll do it for me. I don't understand why Charles, I know it's in the moment and you're asking a lot of a driver, but he's also got to be on top of it too, to be like, all right, thinking about the whole team, because if you want to bring this team a constructors title, you have to do that. Like, you can't just do that at Abu Dhabi every year and say, how many points behind are we? You got to do that in other races before that too.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I think Fred was a breath of fresh air when he first took over Ferrari. I think Fred's days might be numbered with the team. If you got a 7-time world champion and you got your golden boy paired up and you can't give them a car to compete with anybody other than a Williams and a Haas.
This car was worse than it was last year so far in the season.
And here's the thing. We knew going into the season, they made so many changes. They were bringing in practically a whole new car. Why would you do that? You were one win away from winning a Constructors' Championship.
Yep.
You bring in a whole new car with a 7-time world champion taking over your second seat. And now look at you. You can't get past Haas and Williams.
And now they're bringing a B-spec car to either Imola or Spain. I forgot which one of the two races. And for those that don't know, that's very rare to do in F1. Normally you have upgrades you do. They're not doing upgrades. A B-spec car there are so many new parts on this car, it's pretty much considered a new car.
Yep.
Like, that's how many changes they had to make to this car to even get it to where they're going to be drivable for both of their drivers. So the fact that you're going to be less than 10 races in and have to bring a completely new car because you already changed the car so much at the beginning of the season, like you said, I don't understand. You were so close. McLaren did the same thing too, but McLaren was in a whole different situation. Like, McLaren could afford to take the risk because they had a pretty good gap ahead already.
Mm-hmm.
So Ferrari, you didn't have that. You just needed to improve on what you had before, build from last year, and then step forward into the new regulations. But Ferrari being Ferrari, and Junior is the last thing I'll say. You were spot on. Ferrari is definitely the Dallas Cowboys of this sport. As a fellow Cowboy fan, I am each race. It's like watching Mike McCarthy make a call on third down and be like, "Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this right now? We don't need to be doing this right now." So yeah, this team is ultra frustrating. As a partial Ferrari fan, it is maddening the stuff they do and the way they find new ways to become a meme. Shout outs to them. It takes talent, guys.
Yeah, shout out.
It takes talent to do that.
Talent to be worse than you were last year with a 7-time world champion and a championship caliber driver.
So I'm looking at it here. The reason I'm looking at my phone is I'm looking at the standings. Team standings right now.
Don't even.
Obviously, McLaren. They're about 100 points ahead of Mercedes. Red Bull's in third. Red Bull might catch Mercedes if you can get it together, but George's lucky podiums are hurting those chances. Yeah. Ferrari's in fourth with 94 points. Williams is in fifth. Granted, they're almost 60 points behind Ferrari.
That Charles podium absolutely saved our ass. If it wasn't for that podium, we'd be so much lower.
Ferrari is looking, instead of a top team championship contender, they're looking like the best of the rest right now. Haas is right behind Williams, and it's not a close fight, but they're not close to. They're 10 points away from Red Bull, so kind of maybe. But if Max and Yuki keep getting it together and Ferrari keeps shooting themselves in the foot, they're not even going to sniff third place.
It's amazing how Ferrari, and sorry I didn't interrupt you, but it's amazing how Ferrari and Mercedes legitimately just switched places from last year.
Mm-hmm.
This was literally everything Mercedes was going through last year when Lewis was there, and that's why, man, I feel bad for Lewis on that end, where it's like, you mean to tell me I switched to the team that was killing us last year and now my team is killing it? Like, oh man, I'd be so pissed if I were him, man.
You could only hope that it never comes out that Lewis was a common denominator. As a
Yeah.
7-time world champion, it's hard for you to even think about that. But I
I
don't
don't
know.
think about that because mainly Lewis brought up the issues of the car,
Yeah,
and they just didn't listen to him.
yeah,
So
that
it
was
almost
true.
seems like after he left, after they listened to him,
Yeah, they're like,
that's
you
when
know
they
what? Let's
started
give
to-
it a shot now
you
that
know,
he's
maybe
gone.
now that he's gone, let's actually listen to the advice that he gave us.
So I'll say once again, I'm gonna say it every week, and if they podium, I'm gonna give me a Williams hat and wear it on the pod if they podium. But Williams is fucking back, boys. Carlos got unlucky, kind of dropped some places in the race after qualifying, but he still finished in the points. Alex finished P5. Was it P5? Let me see.
Yeah, I think he was P5.
Yep, P5.
Yep. Alex finished P5. Like I said, Kimmy got unlucky again. Williams is back. I'm gonna ride that agenda until the end of the season when they're P4 in the constructors championship.
Yeah.
I think we need to take a second though and kind of mention Alpine. Alpine, we expected to be in that fight with Williams and Haas and maybe Ferrari at this point. But Alpine took a huge step back. Now, Pierre's had some good qualifying sessions. He's had some decent races. But Jack Doohan, we're at that rumored 6 race mark. And the reports are already pouring in that they're looking to swap him with Colapinto. It's probably going to happen based on what I've read. Mr. Consistency, Jack Doohan. Let me read this to y'all.
Oh, God.
DNF in Australia, P20 in the sprint in China, finished the race P13, P15 in Japan, P14 in Bahrain, P17 at Jeddah, finished P16 in the sprint in Miami, and then
Jesus.
DNF'd the race.
Those are Liam Lawson numbers. God damn.
That's Nick DeVries right there. If you would have told me that's Nick DeVries stats, I would have said, yeah, that's probably Nick DeVries.
He's had some tough luck, but to be that consistently bad,
Yeah.
you can't really blame Alpine for making the swap if they make it like we think they are.
Yeah.
Especially considering Franco kind of proved himself last season, at least as a rookie coming in, that he can do something.
Yeah. He had a little shaky end of the season. I feel like that's the main reason why they didn't have a problem sidelining him because of the accidents at the end. They were like, let's just get you a little more polished before we put you back out there on track. But yeah, as much as we were all rooting for Jack, I don't think there's, obviously with the news, especially out right now, that he's probably more than likely gone already. But I mean, the writing was on the wall. He knew he pretty much had to get every race a points finish or at least a podium to even keep his job. But especially when you have sponsorship money, and that's a big thing that runs this sport too that people don't talk about. I don't know if y'all saw the reports that some of the sponsors were a couple days late on their payments, and some people are saying that was a little bit of a statement about, so you got all these Argentinian sponsors, but we ain't got no Argentinian in the car. We ain't gonna send you that money right away, boys.
Yeah, it's coming for sure.
Yeah.
To wrap it up, none of us got a point for our driver of the day predictions.
I don't even remember who
Oscar got driver of the day.
No, I will say I remembered I did get the sprint and race winner right, because I remember I said Lando's going to win the sprint, but he's going to bottle it, and Oscar's going to win the race. So I at least got that, though.
Yeah. Yeah, Oscar ended up getting driver of the day, and Ferrari had every fastest pit stop leading up to this race, and Sauber took it this week.
Sauber, yeah.
Sauber.
I remember watching that one. I was like,
that Jonathan Wheatley effect, brother.
Meanwhile, at Red
my
Bull,
goodness.
He needs to be doing something else besides F1. If you're that good at your job that you could take a team that was doing 30-second pit stops to the fastest pit stop,
yeah, it's
you need to be doing something better, man.
I will say it's going to be interesting to see that team next year when they take on the Audi name and all that. We have a week off, and then it's a triple head. We're going to a triple header starting with Imola.
Yep.
It's a Ferrari's home race. We'll see if they can find something and create some more magic.
It's getting embarrassed, I know.
They created magic last year and won at home.
That shit ain't
Hopefully they can. Hopefully they can do it for Mark's sake. Mark might spiral out by summer break if that's not the case. But it's looking like it's going to be McLaren running away with it. But we'll be back next week to talk about our predictions and kind of preview Imola going into the triple header. Any last thoughts, boys? After Miami, we had a lot to talk about considering it was a sprint and a race. But any last thoughts?
I'm done.
At a track where there's a big straight leading up to turn one, I expect something to happen into turn one. Also, if there was ever a track meant for Williams besides, like, I guess Red Bull Ring or Spa to get a podium, this is definitely one of them. So I would look out for that coming up, but we'll talk about that more when it gets here.
Yep.
Ferrari, bring that illegal engine from 2019 back and we'll be all good. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week to talk about preview Imola and the triple header coming up. We'll give our thoughts, our predictions, and all that in between. Thanks again for everybody who pulled up to the watch party.
Yes.
Sunday. We appreciate the support. Hopefully we can do it again, get more people out, and have another good time with a race here in Houston that's at a decent time. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe to Apollo HOU, like this video, drop your thoughts about Miami in the comments, and until next week, we'll see y'all. We're out of here.
See ya.
Peace.
I'll give a cup of tea.